What's up, YouTube? I'm William Bitter, and this is my channel, Money Thoughts. Today's episode, I'm going to be sharing an episode from a podcast that my real estate agent, Erin, does about real estate in Colorado. So it's an interview of me about my experience buying real estate in Colorado. Also, I wanted to follow up the video that I posted where I threw $100 out the window did indeed produce $100 of revenue from YouTube. So I guess I proved a point that I could make $100 by throwing $100 out the window, which I thought was just kind of a cool experiment. So if you haven't seen that video, check it out. Also, Erin is an awesome real estate agent. Definitely check out her website in the link in the description below. And if you're interested in hearing more experiences of people buying real estate in Colorado and other things real estate in Colorado, definitely check out her podcast. Link in the description below. All right, enjoy the interview.
Hey everyone, this is Erin.
And this is James.
And you're listening to the Erin and James Real Estate Podcast, Colorado Springs edition,
where we discuss all things Colorado Springs real estate.
Today on the podcast with me is a former client of mine, William. He is based out of New York City, and he just did a purchase in October of 2020 in Colorado Springs. He is filming with me from outside in New York City, which looks awesome. I'm a little bit jealous. How are you doing today, William?
I'm great. Yeah, it's going to be a high of 75 here. I live in New York City in an 80 square foot apartment.
Yes, and you just started a YouTube series about your cheap living, right? And like all the ways basically that you're making money without an 8 to 5. You're also a small business owner, but it looks like the YouTube series is kind of about the diversification of money.
Yeah, to sum up my situation in like a 30-second thing, it's like I live in New York City in an 80 square foot apartment. I have a small dog walking business. And I've used that to like save a bunch of money over the last 5 years. And I've just been investing in stocks. And then like just this last year, am I not allowed to mention COVID?
Oh, no, go for it.
Okay, anyway, so basically just this last year, I was walking in circles, walking dogs. And like, I just kept having the same thought loop. And I've thought about investing in real estate for quite some time. Like, I think just about everyone has kind of fantasized like, oh, wouldn't it be cool to like buy a house and rent it out on Airbnb and then you could stay there sometimes, and then have the Airbnb pay your mortgage and have a house and you get to design it. I think most people have like at least thought of that. So I just never did it because it just seems like such a big commitment and I've always been a little fearful of commitments. But basically, I just kept circling around and this thought loop kept coming into my mind of like, wow, the interest rates are so low, 3% or like just under 3%. And then I also had access to margin through my brokerage account, through my like stock investments. Like basically they would lend me a bunch of money at a 2% interest rate.
Oh, wow.
With using my brokerage account as collateral. And technically you never have to pay that back. Like you just owe them. And as long as you're paying your interest, and then your brokerage account doesn't fall below what you owe them.
Because is that because you're lending to yourself, basically?
Yeah, you're basically borrowing against yourself. Yeah, so they have the right to sell your assets if your collateral becomes lower than what you owe. Like there's a certain percentage where they can, it's called a margin call. I think there's like a movie called Margin Call. Yeah, you want to be careful, but really like I had this idea. I was like, wow, like, with money so cheap, I kept kind of doing the napkin math in my brain, like that I could convince myself that I could buy a house in Colorado Springs. Well, I looked in general, but I've always just been drawn to Colorado, and I knew that Colorado Springs was kind of pumping in terms of like influx of people moving there and low inventory. So I knew prices were rising and vacancy rates were low. So like I kind of knew that a little bit already, but I looked more into it. And that's when I found your blog post and I was like, oh, and then I saw that you were mentioning like house hacking and Airbnb. And I was like, yeah, that's exactly what I want to do. And so, I reached out to you. I convinced myself that I could essentially use none of my own money. I could borrow everything and basically have a home that completely pays for itself and gives me passive income. So I convinced myself that it's like a no-brainer.
So, and let's just stop there for a minute just to tell people what you have. So you bought a place in October 2020 It is maybe 2 or 3 miles from downtown. You actually have really good views when the summer comes, I think the trees could fill out and it could be a less good view, but from your porch, you can see a mountain. It was 385.
Yeah.
And then I just looked at it. It is a 4.3. And that guy, he bought it in April of 2019.
315, I think.
I know, because you were offended. Like, this guy is this really, he's making all this money for nothing?
I wasn't offended. I was just like, I hope it continues. Like, I hope it keeps doing this, because I was like, that's crazy.
Sure.
And honestly, I check the Zestimate every month, and I'm always like, oh, another month that goes up like $6,000 in value. Well, I mean, it's an estimate or whatever, but that's all I have to go off of. I'm not going to do like an appraisal every month, but I'm like, oh, another $6,000 in value for my home, like in equity. I'm like, that sounds nice.
I will tell you, I just looked at your estimate and I actually kind of think it's low, and I'm not trying to get your hook. Like, you're not planning on selling anytime, so it doesn't matter. But I just know how the competition is going right now, and your location and your size. I actually think, I'm like, that seems low to me.
Just keep making it rain on me. Just keep telling me.
Remember, you promised me you were just going to say you were rich over and over again for this podcast.
I'm rich! No, I mean, it's all relative, right? But,
okay, so you were thinking about it for a while. You decided to make the plunge, in part because you could lend against yourself and at that 2% rate. So everything that you put down, the 20% down and the furniture, did you pay for all of that from the loan against yourself?
Yeah, I mean, like, basically. I didn't have to, but like, just for experimental purposes, I did it really for my YouTube video. Like, I did it just to like kind of as an experiment, kind of prove a point of like, I had an idea and I'm pretty sure this would work, And so I borrowed everything. Like, I was like, I'm going to borrow everything. I'm not going to spend a single dollar of my own. And it was like, I think it was like $85K that I dropped in the initial, I don't know, down payment or whatever the initial closing costs were and stuff. And then I put about $15K into like, I don't even know, just like all the stuff for setting it up as a rental.
So did you put beds in all of the bedrooms? Like, how many people can the place sleep, and how many couches does it have and stuff like that?
I have it listed as being able to sleep 10 people. It's a 4-bedroom, 3-bathroom. The way that I kind of justify that is there's the 3 bedrooms, 2 of the beds could probably sleep 2 people. Like, there's a king size bed and a queen size bed. So I'm like, that's kind of 5 people upstairs. 1 full bed is 1 person, 2 people in the other 2 bedrooms. So that's 5. And then I was like, well, downstairs there's a bedroom with a bunk bed. So that's 7 people. And then there's a couch with a pull-out bed. And technically you could probably sleep like a person it's like a huge sectional couch. So you could probably sleep like 2 people between the pull-out bed on the couch and the couch part of the couch. That's 9. And then I have an air mattress. I was like, so technically you could sleep 10, but probably everyone wants to sleep in a normal bed. It's more like 5.
Like, when people come in and rent, how many people are you typically getting?
Honestly, that's a good question. It varies. It's usually like 3 or 4 or 5 or 2. Sometimes it's just 2. Whenever I get more than that, I get nervous. I'm like, oh, 7. But I think I have it so it charges a little extra for more people. I think it's like after 5 or 6 people, there's like an extra charge.
So let's backtrack for a minute. So William is renting his out on Airbnb. We will talk about the legality of that in a minute. But when did it go live, William? Like, how many months are you into this?
So I closed, I think it was like October 22nd. And then I think I had it like listed November. It took me a good few weeks, if not a month, to kind of get it set up. And I was like, I think I had to fly to Colorado twice because I had my dog walkers covering me. And it was a lot of work. I know you always mention just throw money at the problem, but I'm such a cheap kind of scrappy hustler that all my furniture in my entire home, I only spent $2,400 on it.
Yeah, not for me. Just order it from Amazon. It's cheap enough. It comes straight to your door.
I know. I mean, honestly, in hindsight, you're probably right. Just because time is money, and every day that I spend running around is a couple $100 in rent. Now I see that. But when you don't know for sure how well your investment's going to go, you kind of want to like set yourself up for success. You're like worried, uncertainty, want to like get the best deal, save the money as much as possible in every little thing. But yeah, if you're confident and you've done it 5 times, I could, like you have, like I could see myself just being like, yeah, it's going to be fine.
If you are new to this podcast and you are female, make sure to check out Denver Women Invest. It's denverwomeninvest.com. You don't have to be in Denver. You could be in Colorado Springs. You could be out of state, but it is a networking and a free education club that we do every month online where we have speakers and local investors come in and talk. Please do join us if that sounds interesting to you.
Okay, so when did you go live? Like mid-November, maybe?
Yeah, it was like end of November. And then I tracked 4 months of expenses and revenues. So I think I haven't like updated it the last month or so, but I will say it's been doing better lately than it. Like you said, I think you said high season was March to October.
Yep.
I've noticed people are booking it for more. Like I had it listed out for more. The way I would list the price is like the current month would be like a little bit cheaper, and then the next month would be like a little bit more, and then the next month would be like kind of a ridiculous price, just to see if someone's planning ahead and just like fix it just to like test. And then as it gets closer, I can lower the price to make sure it's filled in.
Yep.
But what's happened is it's usually always booked out like 2 months. At least 2 months booked out. And that probably would be 3 months if I lowered the price in the third month. But like even in July, like I have people booking my house for like $250 a night and then paying extra for like pet fees. And I'm looking at other houses too. I'm like, they're listed for less than mine. I'm like, I don't even know why my like I guess my house looks nice, but all my furniture is used at Facebook Marketplace. So I'm always surprised that I always get like 5-star reviews and like I don't know, it's really been going well.
Wait, so can we talk about numbers for a minute just for the slow season? Because so William just mentioned this, but it's worth re-mentioning. So slow season, the worst money you're going to get through Airbnb is going to be October to March, and your best money is going to be basically April through October. So William has just come, he's basically rounding out the worst part of his rental. And so we know he's done it for 4 months. So what does it look like numbers wise, mortgage versus what you're bringing in?
So I have an Excel sheet that I have open on my phone, but I also have like at least round numbers in my mind. So I'll just say like I've been averaging about $3,100 in income after I pay my cleaner. So $3,100 in revenue. And then my expenses are about $2,000 a month.
Okay.
That's like my mortgage is $1,500, and then there's like a couple hundred for utilities, and then there's just like a couple hundred for like I don't know, like there was a fuse that blew. But this is so far, like I'm sure there'll be unexpected expenses that will probably cost more. But that's basically been giving me the first 4 months like a cash flow of like $1,100, which is amazing. Oh, and then when I include my interest for my margin, which is like $100 a month, or it's like 80, like 100 or something, I still have like a cash flow of like $1,000 a month, basically not even using a single dollar of my own, which is insane. And then when I incorporate the equity gain, that's like the cash return. But then I like to incorporate like the equity gain. Like every month I'm getting $500 of equity because I'm paying my mortgage down for my house. So really my return is like $1,500 a month, right? And then if you include the value of my house going up $6,000 every month, I'm like, okay, now that's getting a little ridiculous. I'm like, so am I technically making like $7,500 a month on an investment that I didn't have to use a single dollar of my own money? It just seems a little too good to be true.
So let's say that in July you did $200 a night and then you only rented it for 70% of the time. You would be getting back $4,300 or $4,300 in sales. That's without your mortgage and stuff. But
there was one request that I got, and it was like something like 8 p.m. I don't know. I don't even know how to explain it. I just got vibes of like, this is going to be a party. It's like Friday, Saturday, a ton of people, and no real message around it. And I just declined. I just told them, I was like, hey guys, sorry, I just feel uncomfortable. Like, I feel like you guys are going to throw a party. I think I said that. But then right after that, and it was slightly different dates, which made me feel better. So I was like, it's not just someone else. Someone booked, and it was like this almost the same amount of people, but they're like, oh, it's me and my father they're like me and my boyfriend and my parents-in-law or whatever. Like just the message along with it, I was like, okay, that sounds fine. Like they just said, like, they explained why it's so many people, and I had way better vibes about it.
No, that's something that we talk about all the time. Like when you have even like a new client come in, when they send us one sentence, it's like, this is weird and this is sketchy. And it also just doesn't seem successful. And I think it's the same thing that you're saying here. Like someone comes in and they're vague and too lazy to tell you who they are. It is not you're much more apt to go with the person that's like, it's me and my family. We're coming in to celebrate our grandma or whatever. Then you're like, yeah, I want to, So you don't have to give me the name, but the cleaning, how is that going and stuff?
Oh man, I'm really lucky because I have a really good friend of mine, and she's, I kind of got a couple estimates, and then I told my friend how much they were charging me, and she was like, I'll fucking do it. She's like, I'll do it. And I was like, okay. I was like, I'd much rather have you do it. And she's great, and I trust her, and she does a good job. And
are you passing through the cleaning costs? Are you charging the Airbnbers?
I have a $200 cleaning fee, and that's what I pay her. And then sometimes she charges me a little extra. I think sometimes she does it, and it's like a little more in-depth cleaning, like 4 or 5 hours it takes her. I checked a long time ago. I was like obsessed with looking at my cameras. I have cameras outside the house, like front and back door. Now I should probably check at least when they come or something, but honestly, I don't check.
Do you tell them that you have cameras?
Oh, it's pretty obvious. Yeah, it's right when you walk up. I mean, if they don't see it,
do you
it's
tell
in my
them?
listing.
Do you tell them about the camera in the bathroom?
No comment.
That's illegal.
I don't need an investigation.
Good thing we didn't use your last name, because I think people might have a problem with the camera in the bathroom, William. Wait.
Yeah.
Okay, so actually, William doesn't really have cameras in the bathroom, but he is. Let's talk for a second. He is not running a legal Airbnb. So just to overview the laws really fast, in Colorado Springs, it used to be that you could buy an Airbnb anywhere, and then in October, and you could be an investor and do it. And then in October of 2019, that changed. And so William came in after that, and it is his primary residence in Colorado Springs. So that's a little bit of a gray area, because you can do it if it is your primary residence. But William most of the time lives in New York. So there's a little bit, so it's not fully legal. And so I just want to say that we don't advocate that, but if people are comfortable with that, that's fine. Everybody's an adult and they can move forward with it. So I think it's been going well for you, but I want to point that out and then just see how your comfort level has been going. And if you're worried about it, or if you're just thinking it's fine, I'll transition when and if I get caught, which honestly too, I will throw this out there. I've heard a lot of people talk about the fact that the city is not enforcing it very much.
Yeah. So let's just say my primary residence is undecided, and it's like I'm residency fluid. Because the thing is, I have an apartment in New York. I'm a New York resident, but then I bought a house in Colorado, and I plan to, I bought it with the intention of moving there. And It's possible I might be moving there this summer, because technically I want to live there. And actually this summer, I do have someone that's going to take over my business this summer. And the way that I thought about Airbnb is, it just seems like it's a lot easier to start. For me, it's not just about the return, but it's also about like the experience and learning, So it's like, if I were to get the full range of learning, like what it's like to have a rental property, it's like, it just seems a lot easier to go from short term to medium term to long term. Because the way that I always thought about it was like, all right, short term seems like it'd be more money, but maybe more work. Medium term, somewhere in between. And then long term seems like it'd be maybe a lot easier, but and I don't know, this is just my thoughts around it. I have no idea if that's true, but like a little bit less money. And I figured like, well, why not make more money and see how hard it actually is? And it's honestly been really easy.
Yeah, because the city is never they don't have the time or the effort to proactively. It's your neighbors that are going to notice, and they're going to be okay with it or not.
I told all my neighbors that I was doing it.
And what they say.
And they're like, oh, cool. Awesome. I don't know. And, they thought it was cool. I don't know. Like, I don't think I've had a lot of ragers in my house. I think in that sense, I think that's really all that matters. And then I told them, I know I gave one of my neighbors my number. If there's any issue, like, call me. But the one across the street, I don't know. I'm not too worried, but yeah, hopefully they would figure out how to reach me somehow.
No,
Maybe I should put my number on my house. Like,
I think actually just communicating with the neighbors. And I think sometimes too, neighbors are totally open to this. I think your house looked fine when you bought it, but I've definitely heard of other people where they buy a house where the former owners didn't take very good care of it, or they had barking dogs or whatever. So the neighbors are excited to have someone come in that's going to make it look really nice, and they don't have some of the old issues. And you know, it's hit or miss.
Yeah, now you're putting pressure on me to make my yard look nice this summer. I mean, I'm going to. I'm excited about it, actually.
But your yard doesn't. I mean, you did clean up your yard a little bit when you bought it. I've seen the photos. It looks a little better.
You're right. There was a lot of dog shit in that yard, and it was. Yeah, now that you mention it, I didn't feel like I did a lot to my yard, but actually it was a lot of work because I like had to buy a chainsaw and like saw up all this like scrap wood, raccoon nest, and dog poop. So yeah, I guess I did the bare minimum. I was like, get rid of all this shit.
The Erin and James Real Estate Podcast is brought to you by Whole Property Management. Whole Property Management handles the whole process. They can help make you more money through higher rents, less vacancy, lower maintenance costs, and lower risk tenants. Whole Property Management offers flat monthly rates as low as $79, and they provide rental income protection, eviction protection, and property damage protection. That's a lot of protection. There's no contract, cancel anytime. So if you're in Denver or Colorado Springs, call Whole Property Management today at 720-737-1373. That's 720-737-1373.
Oh yeah, so I recently started a YouTube channel called Money Thoughts, and I actually started it like a year ago, but like I just did a video here and there. But recently, one of my videos on my tiny apartment blew up, and I'm super excited about it. Like, I don't know, I went from like 50 subscribers to like 1,000 in like 4 days.
Yeah, and lots of comments.
Yeah, and I want to respond to all the comments, but they just keep building up. But the views dropped off, and I'm so busy, it's hard to like make videos, but I'm trying. And this summer, I'll probably make more when I kind of transition.
Hey, what's the name of your YouTube channel again? You said it, but it kind of cut out.
It's called Money Thoughts. I know it's a little generic. I feel like a lot of people get stuck on like, what's their brand or their logo, and then no one starts like anything. And they're like, oh, it's sometimes overwhelming just thinking of like what the name of your YouTube channel is. But then sometimes you just never start a YouTube channel because you get stuck at the beginning. So me, I'm just like, when I started my dog walking business, I was like, Happy Dog Walker. And then people noticed my name and my card last name was Bitter, and they're like, oh, you're the Bitter. And then I changed to Bitter Dog Walkers. So I don't think the name is that important, but yeah, Money Thoughts. And yeah, like I applied for monetization, and the first day of monetization on YouTube, I made $230.
Damn.
In 1 day.
Yeah.
And I was like, my heart dropped. I was like, what? I was like, I thought it was going to be years before I made money. I thought it was going to be at least like another year before I made money on YouTube. And I thought it'd be like $10 in a day or something. And then the next day it was like 305. and then it like kind of started, it's been going, I've only been monetized for like a week or something. And it's dropping like by 50% every day. So I guess that means I'm supposed to put out more viral content, but still just knowing that the potential is there, it makes me want to like make YouTube videos.
Totally.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, that's like a job where it's like your potential is infinite. Like it's like, well, if you make something good enough, it can reach. It's like infinitely scalable. Like whatever energy you put into it can reach as many people as it is interesting to watch, I guess. So that's exciting. And then also the aspect of like you can make a YouTube video from anywhere in the world. Is like, imagine like living in the Philippines and making $300 a day or something. Like you'd be in a friggin' castle.
Totally. And the idea too that you're just talking about something that's interesting to you and people are responding to it and you're getting paid for it. What a great life. I mean, that's cool.
Well, that was my idea with YouTube. I was like, well, now that I'm like financially independent, like I can do whatever I want. Like, well, what should I do? I was like, let me just do whatever I want and make videos of it. And if I get paid doing that, that's great. If not, it's at least I'm doing whatever I want. Because that was the whole point of saving and investing, which is what my YouTube channel is on. That was the whole point, is for independence, not necessarily to like build an empire and take over the world, but just like live life fully, and follow your dreams, et cetera, et cetera.
Totally. And I think people of our generation and the generation younger than us, you're probably a generation younger than me, but I'm going to say our generation here. I'm going to be generous to myself by including
whatever that means,
your generation.
Yeah.
But I think they're more open to it, like more open to just pursuing different things and not being so like 9 to 5 or, Monday through Friday, which
or 8 to 7 p.m. or 8 to 10.
Yeah. I'm working so that you might get a bonus at the end of the month. One final question for you. Are you doing Bitcoin? Are you a cryptocurrency person?
It's funny because I've always known what it was and I understood the value of it, but it took me a long time to finally drink the Kool-Aid. And I did in January. I went down the rabbit hole, like probably around Christmas time, the Bitcoin rabbit hole, and I bought one Bitcoin.
You did.
And I was like, I'm just going to, because I was like, well, I still feel like Bitcoin, like there's no intrinsic, like the value of Bitcoin is, well, as long as everyone adopts Bitcoin, then it's kind of insanely valuable where if someone decides to adopt something else instead. But it seems like Bitcoin is going to be the digital gold. And of course, no one knows that for sure. So I think everyone that's like Bitcoin guaranteed riches is like, I think that's like, be careful. I'm not a financial advisor or whatever, but I think everyone should put at least 1% of their life savings in Bitcoin.
I wonder if you just watched the same. I just watched a documentary where a guy was saying most people have at least 1% of their income that they can put away somewhere. And he was saying just do it because the downside is very low and the upside is huge.
Basically. Yeah. I've watched a lot on Bitcoin. I mean, the thing is, there's kind of like a loop that could possibly happen is where, it's like, okay, if everyone adopts 1% of Bitcoin into their portfolio, then it's like, okay, well, at what point is everyone going to adopt 5%? And basically it's like a self-fulfilling loop of like, well, should we all just hold Bitcoin because it's better than cash?
Yeah.
That's what Elon Musk said. He's like, Bitcoin is just a little bit better than cash. And if Bitcoin's a little bit better than cash, and then everyone realizes that and then transfers all their money into Bitcoin, then the value of Bitcoin, whoever moves into it first, is going to be heavily rewarded. But the thing is, there's all these other cryptocurrencies. So it's like, well...
Right. You have to decide which one is going to take off and which one. But yeah,
I think they're all going to move together. Probably, they have limited supply but yeah, that's right. My brain tries to wrap around like, well, if it's kind of a popularity contest, and then how do you can't know for sure that Bitcoin is going to be the digital gold. It just seems like it will be.
But it seems like early adopters often it works out. I mean, I'm sure it's self-selecting because we only hear about the early adopters that have success. But I even think about it with Airbnb. Like if you're an early adopter on Airbnb, you were making insane money because there wasn't this level of competition. And even now, even now that you have competition, you're still the top Airbnb because you have 10,000 reviews and everybody else has 200, So it definitely pays off to be an early adopter.
Yeah, I mean, it would have been nice to buy Bitcoin at $1 or whatever, but I still don't think it's too late. And I think a few of these huge corporations buying it just gives everyone permission to say like, okay, it's happening. Like, might as well be earlier to the party than later. It's just going to keep growing to some extent. Like, I can't imagine, everyone might like have some panic or whatever, but it's the same thing as gold. I mean, gold is like shiny and pretty, but like there's just a limited supply and everyone knows about it. And
it's the same thing as real estate in Colorado. People don't want to buy it because it's been going up and up and up for a while. Can that continue to happen? And it's like, it could.
Well, that's kind of the idea is like, just because home prices in Colorado Springs are going to go up, and everyone's going to move there, it doesn't mean that other areas can't grow too. Like, same thing with cryptocurrencies. It's like money is flowing into all these things. Like, if you believe in the future of capitalism, then you should kind of believe in any investment that makes some sense, really.
Diversify.
As long as the population growth keeps growing, then I would say real estate makes sense. But
we've talked about
right?
But what about all those people not having kids? All right. Well, I think I just have to go because I have another call, but I appreciate this. This was awesome. Do you want any last thoughts or anything else that you want to add?
Oh, well, I mean, my last thought might just be, is what I have to tell like my friends and family all the time, because I just feel like a lot of people are really risk averse and they just don't do these things because they're scared of the possible loss, downfall. And I guess like my takeaway is like the biggest risk in life is not ever taking a risk. It's like you're never going to meet the person of your dreams if you're too scared of heartbreak and you never date anyone. You're never going to have an investment that works out if you don't at least try to invest in something. And oftentimes like failure is not as bad as people think, and a lot of people that have succeeded have probably failed at one point or another, if not failed many, many times. So
you're speaking my language. I totally agree with that. I think if you're not,
I love language.
I think if you're not failing, sometimes you're not trying very hard. Like you're just playing it safe. Like you should be failing at some things.
Yeah, and life is boring without taking risks. Like that's why I like rock climbing and snowboarding. It's just like you feel alive.
All right, everyone. That was our show for today. Thanks for tuning in.
We're at erinandjamesrealestate.com. If you have questions about buying, selling, investing, house hacking, we are happy to field any of those.
Find us on Facebook, YouTube. Leave us a 5-star review on iTunes or the podcast app of your choice.